Hello, this is the story of how I survived an exploding fibroid. That sounds like an asteroid or something that's coming from space. It's absolutely an amazing story, my healing journey that I'd like to share with you. Thank you. I want to share my healing story dealing with a fibroid with you to inspire you that your body can heal itself. And I want to share some things I learned from all the research while learning how to heal myself and the collective energies moving through my body from my ancestors, Mother Earth, the universe. While you listen to the story and things I learned, please open your heart and imagination to the magic. The format of the story is to tell the story, and then I will point out things that might be of service to you or someone with fibroids in their journey along the way. September 21st, 2020 was a magical, loving, grateful day. A few months or so before this day, I visited 2 barn owls and a palm tree every day. They gave me strength and wisdom and love, and after this day, I saw them for about a year, visiting them once or twice a day. They looked down at me when I walked up to the tree. They were my spirit guides through the pandemic and through this magical day. September 21st, 2020 was the day that changed my husband and my life forever. I learned about some new talents in my being to help transform energy into love every day. It all started during the pandemic. There was so much fear and chaos. There was COVID going on, climate change, police brutality, protests all over downtown, helicopters all night and day downtown where we live and work, the National Guard, and a lockdown with lines going into the co-op with masked faces and utter panic, and supplies and food sold out in the stores that were previously available as staples in our home. On September 21st, I woke up at 4 a.m. to get a drink of water and use the restroom. All of a sudden, I began hemorrhaging without realizing it. On this day, I learned that I'm an empath. I learned that the anger, sadness, fear, and despair that the people in the world were feeling was being trapped as stagnation in my body. I tried every day to transform this energy the best I could with yoga, walking meditation, and continuing to eat organic food, and I thought I was taking care of myself. Those practices have served me well until now, but if we didn't have a pandemic, they might have continued to serve me. But with the pandemic, I was absorbing other people's fear too, all around me. I didn't know how to get rid of the extra energy. In the past, I had anxiety, but during this time, I had anger for the first time, and I didn't know what to do with the fire burning inside me. It grew a little anger, as I call it, on my cervix. It was a wake-up call, a lesson for the way I was living. My female cycle is always right on schedule, day 28, perfect, etc. All the stress threw off my cycle for about 3 months, and I will spare you the details. But as a woman in the ages of 40 to 50, at the time this happened, I thought I was only flooding, and that what I was experiencing wasn't too serious. I didn't want to go to the doctor from the 3 previous unnatural periods that I call them, when I knew it was unbalanced due to COVID and visiting the hospitals at that time, but was trying to heal myself with herbs. From 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. I was hemorrhaging, and I called my aunt, a retired nurse, to help me with my symptoms. I called in sick, and my husband did too, not realizing we were in the brink of my life emergency. If he had gone to work, I would not be writing this right now or reading this to you or doing this video. She told me I need to be seen that day. I called my doctor, or Kaiser, and while talking on the phone, while sitting on the toilet, I passed out a little bit, not realizing it, but my husband witnessed it. My husband called 911. He had called an hour before, but I said I was fine. Wow, I had no idea. So when we went back at 8:30, when we called back at 8:30, they remembered the first phone call. From 4 to 8:30 a.m., I sat on the toilet, bleeding to death, or should I say bleeding life out of me. The ambulance took me alone. My husband wasn't able to go with me due to the COVID protocol. And this was where I began my magical day. The entire day, I thanked everyone all day long. Thank you so much for helping me. I said this over and over all day long to the ambulance driver that gave me fluids so I didn't pass out and end up with a hysterectomy, etc. I was able to make decisions about my health, etc. To everyone that was there on that day trying to help me. Later it turned out it was a good thing my husband was home and wasn't allowed to go in the ambulance, so he could be an open channel to be a support line for our families to tunnel that love to me and give me strength, and channel that love to me and give me strength. I didn't know I was dying until the doctor in the emergency room said I needed blood and hormones to stop this. I was scared to take both, but my aunt luckily talked me into it through one of the doctor's cell phones I was speaking on. My husband packed a bag of clothes and food and my aunt's phone number for my journey that day. I wasn't able to make that decision wisely due to the blood loss and the stubbornness to be pure. They gave me 4 A-positive blood bags, and they couldn't get me to stop bleeding until 3 p.m. Wow. I thanked the doctors, the blood guy, the cleaning lady, all the techs, everyone. I made jokes when they did the ultrasound and found the tumor. It was benign, we found out later. And I said, is it a girl or a boy? My aunt, the nurse, called all day long and talked to doctors. And she helped me make medical decisions all day using their cell phones, as I didn't own one at the time. Now I just have a track phone for emergencies. They were also helpful. I continued to borrow different doctor' cell phones so I could call my husband and have him read parts of Susan Weed's books. One was called New Menopausal Years, where we tried to figure out what I should do and what decision I should tell the doctors I was going to do with the different ideas about surgery. I also talked with my aunt about how I needed to maneuver through the emergency medicine and what journey I should take, which choices would heal me the best, etc. The physical explosion from all the stress I learned from studying traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, as well as homeopathic natural medicines. What caused the exploding stress tumor? My stress was so high, it raised my estrogen, made me off balance, then grew a benign tumor on my cervix. I always joke about how I didn't really get traditionally sick with little sicknesses, but I do produce exploding tumors. I also had recently started eating meat at the time, but have now stopped as I could see it wasn't healing for my particular body. I learned many things, that people with blood type A sometimes don't have as much stomach acid as people with blood type O, so we don't have the stomach acid to digest it very well. And my body, and from my body, the omega-6s, even with grass-fed meat, was not nearly as good as the omega-3s in wild fish that was throwing off my cycle, contributing to the tumor, etc. I might add that I'm not a typical person that grows those types of benign tumors, as I'm a 100-pound organic eating, yoga doing, etc. Everyone is very different though, so not the same for others. And the meat factor here. I have found that after giving up meat and only eating fish, my cycles are perfect again. I was a vegetarian for over 20 years and vegan 10 years. My family are all vegetarians except they eat fish, and they seem to be thriving on that diet too. I thought I was helping myself by eating meat, and it threw off my body balance doing so. The meat raised hormones in my body that makes my periods heavier, which leads to more blood loss and a higher risk for too much iron loss, which makes the periods heavier if the iron is low, a deadly cycle that makes itself worse as it goes along. Since then, I have gone back to my traditional diet, fish and whole foods without meat, and it has really balanced things out. For iron, I also eat natto, and I like to use the brand New York Natto, and they have organic natto, the traditional soybeans, fermented soybeans, and this is very high in iron and K2, and I eat that on my periods when I have my period, and it really helps with flow, keeping it lighter, and also with iron loss, and helps keep my energy up. One interesting thing that I found while researching for my body is that both red meat and dairy produce an omega-6 fatty acid called, I'm going to spell it here because I know I probably won't be able to pronounce it very well, arachidonic acid. This substance encourages the production of, quote, bad type of PGE2. And how you spell this word is PROSTAGLANDIN. That leads to an increase in blood flow and the reduced blood clotting ability. The result is heavier periods. Research has shown that women with heavy periods have higher levels of this acid, causing more PGE2 to be made. Women with heavy periods should, it says in the article, should ideally consume less of this acid, which is found mainly in animal-based foods. That was the suggestion of the article, and I adopted this belief, and it has helped me since. Eggs are just like the red meat with the yolks that have high amounts of this acid, which can lead to increased inflammation and pain. I really needed a wake-up call for the way I was, quote, handling my stress, and I needed to share this story to inspire others to trust in the universe and let go of fear and anger as they don't serve anyone. During the pandemic, I started rotating listening to Thich Nhat Hanh's books and listening to his teachings on love and meditations to heal my body by listening to the suffering in myself and the world around me, etc. Now I recommend for myself to heal any sort of challenging situation, listening to Jesse Herman's channeled lessons or talks from Vagrian, who she channels, and if I had that back then, that really would have helped me out tremendously, along with Thich Nhat Hanh. Normally, this type of tumor can shrink on its own, and I would have done that with castor oil packs, I believe, but I was one of the, quote, lucky ones, that I call it, sarcastically, where only 2% of the population has them rupture. So my small tumor on my cervix ruptured, and it was connected to an artery, so this is why I was hemorrhaging. At 4 a.m., what happened was I changed, my cycle was very heavy at that point, so I put a tampon in there, and when I went to the kitchen, the blood was flowing, and I thought that was very unusual because I just put a tampon in, and so what I'm thinking is that the tampon hit the fibroid and it ruptured it there. I must have hit it. And that is something else I discovered, that tampons can cause. This is one of the beliefs that I developed for myself, because it made sense. And this might make sense for you as well, that they create a form of stagnation, because the blood is supposed to flow out of your body. And when you have a tampon, you're holding it inside your body. So it's actually not very natural to have a tampon inside of your body for long periods of time, especially. And I would use a tampon on the first day of my cycle all night, just to help so I didn't get blood on the bed. But now I just use a towel and a lot of pads, just to make sure that I don't spill out onto the bed. But that might be something that resonates with you as well, that the stagnation idea with tampons. My husband and I listen carefully to the woman's cycle to determine what is good for our lives now. Very revealing. I even grow my own red clover and fenugreek sprouts for my hormone health. I recommend the book Grow Your Own HRT, Sprout Hormone-Rich Greens in Only 2 Minutes a Day, by Sally J. Her last name is Duffell. And she explains the importance of the hormones that nourish your body from growing your own sprouts. I've done it ever since, and I find that if I forget to grow them properly, that my cycle will be slightly off. And once I cut back on the sprouts 1 week and my cycle was late or early, it's really kept me very balanced, and I love the sprouts. It's very easy to do. Highly recommend this. For my hormone health, I grow sprouts. I grow red clover sprouts and fenugreek sprouts, and I get them from the Sprout people in San Francisco, and it is amazing. I grow sprouts for my husband and I on the weekends, so we eat it. I start growing them it takes about 7 days to grow, and we have the sprouts in our salads on Saturday, Sunday, and then I have some more sprouts on Tuesday or Wednesday, so I'm kind of always eating them throughout the week. And I have, I have about 5 sprouting containers that I use, and they are amazing, and I highly recommend growing your own sprouts for all of your health. The sprouting trays that I use they're stainless steel, and you can get it online, and the bottom part is solid, and then there's an upper tray, so it's like a 2-stack tray, and I put the sprouts, when I soak them, 2 tablespoons of the red clover in one tray, and then 2 tablespoons of fenugreek sprouts in the other tray, and then I soak them in filtered water for 24 hours. And then I have a tray on top that's closed. It's over the top of it, and it's the air can reach the tray. I don't have the top tray that they have on their website online. And when I water them, I just put filtered water in mine, and I fill it to the top where it goes to the tray, what's it called? The screen, I guess you call it. And then I just turn it over in the sink and empty that out, and just make sure all of the sprouts got a drink and they're wet. And then I empty it out and make sure that I get all the water out. and then I'm done with that one, and then I do that for all the other trays. And I do that twice a day, in the morning and then after around dinner time, and then they grow. And it takes about a week to grow them, and they are amazing. And you can rinse out the seeds at the very end of the 7 days or 6 days, and then you can store them in your fridge. And you'll know that if they're bad, if they go bad, like if you water them incorrectly one time, sometimes they tend to go bad. And if you can smell anything that doesn't smell fresh, throw them out. Don't take a chance on that. But if you do it correctly with your watering and you don't let them linger in the water or sit too long, and they smell fresh, and then when you rinse out the seeds at the end of the 7 days and they do smell fresh to you, then you can eat them safely and store them in the fridge. And I absolutely love my sprouts. You can also, if you don't really like eating raw sprouts, you can also put olive oil on top of it with Himalayan salt and mix it all together. That's really tasty too. Have fun sprouting. So back to the story of when I was in the emergency room, where I was being given the blood bags and also the fluids all day long. My iron was 7 when I got there. 7. So typically with fibroids, they do a very non-invasive surgery where they cut off the artery and they put something like, from what I understand at the time, plastic beads or something in there. But that did not feel good for me. So I knew that that might be good for someone else, but for me that was very frightening. So I knew not to go that route because it made me feel bad. So I begged them actually not to do that. Then they wanted to take it all out with a hysterectomy, and my aunt told them not to go from A to D. Let's try to go from A to B first. That was very helpful. So I asked if they could just cut the tumor out alone, and another surgeon said yes, Dr. Cho. And I asked her if she could do that, and she said yes, and it would stop the issue. She was an angel. She saved all my lady parts and healed me. A hard procedure. It's a harder procedure than the other one, that is from what I was told. But my gut told me that this was the one to do, which wasn't really offered to me to be done at first. I asked my husband to read a Wise Woman Healer book from Susan Weed to me on the phone for what to do, and that gave me the idea, I believe. I recommend all of Susan Weed's books. I made a connection with everyone that day. I even heard a story that a lady that was cleaning up my blood, she went through this as well, and she took it all out after that. She didn't want to deal with anything like this again. She warmed her face and heart and opened up to me, giving me the strength she had from her difficult job and her tired demeanor. She came through for me and gave me all the love back, and we were bonded for that time. After the surgery, I was able to go home that day. This all happened in one day. I left about 9 p.m. at night. My husband's parents let them borrow their car, and they drove behind us since we were doing the COVID protocol of social distancing to the extreme. My husband said I was glowing when he picked me up, and I was laughing and smiling. I told him that it was the community blood inside of me. Everyone saved me, and I was so grateful for everyone. He had a love letter that gave me strength, and to this day I read it to remember the love and bond we have to one another. He was channeling love from my family, the owls, the spirit world, our ancestors, the universe, the earth, all going through him to give me strength to make it through this day. One funny story happened when I was told I was going home the night of September 21st. The nurse told me to go change into my clothes, and she gave me some of the hospital post-surgery underwear to put on that would hold a very large pad. While changing into my clothes, I was still on my period, so I sat over the toilet and the pad flung into the toilet, and I couldn't catch it in time. So it was just floating there. So I said, "Oh no," or something, and the nurse asked if everything was okay. And I opened the door and told her, "Yes, I am fine, thanks." "But you know that sexy underwear you gave me? Well, the pad flung into the toilet and I couldn't stop it." We both laughed so hard. I was making so many jokes. I felt so good. All that good blood, good fluids, love. And I got home that night to hug my husband and cats again and see my family and live another night. She told me I couldn't have sex for a period of time. And once again, I said jokingly, "Oh man, you just ruined my plans for tonight." We both laughed so hard. After 1 month, I went back to my doctor for a checkup, and they found everything healed, no scar tissue, nothing. And I had normal periods since then. I learned the lessons to listen to my body's wise messages, and I now incorporate quiet meditation, something I was missing, to transform the fear into light and love and move through me, etc. I have emailed Dr. Cho every September 21st with my gratitude and also my art, sending her art shows, etc. I love her. I tracked down the ambulance team and thanked them from the top of the department. That took about 3 months to track them down. My heart was, quote, open in a magical way for about 2 weeks after the near-death experience. I could feel my family and friends' heart and their support and love, and I could feel their suffering as well as mine. It was so magical. After 2 weeks, it went back to the normal open heart sensation, but it helped heal the wounds in my family and myself. My husband and my vibrations have elevated, where watching any suffering on TV shows is unbearable to watch, even now. We can really feel it in our bodies, and it is not something that can be done anymore. This experience was something that was done for both of us. It was my body that sacrificed itself, but we both experienced this magical day together. I hope you enjoy my story as an inspiration to you. Thank you. When I was having the imbalance of periods, I thought that I could heal myself with herbs and then possibly going to a naturopathic doctor to heal the imbalance. And I had a lot of confidence that I could heal myself. But I really needed to go to the doctor and get checked out. And then I could heal myself from there. But it's really important to go to your doctor if you are having any sort of imbalance. This could save your life. If I didn't have medical insurance and I couldn't get in that ambulance, I would not be here today. The symptoms of the imbalance period before the tumor ruptured started about 3 months before. So I had 3 very imbalanced cycles. There was blood clotting in the first cycle that was about the size, blood clots were coming out of me, and one cycle was the size of maybe quarters. The next cycle was, the next month was bigger than that, and the third cycle, which was very frightening, they were like toads, like big toads that just fell out, and I screamed and said, "What's that?" It was that frightening. Now, I really wasn't having any other symptoms. My periods were on time, but this is a huge warning to go to your doctor if you have any sort of clotting. I highly recommend this. This probably could have been prevented, but if I had gone to the doctor. One of the beliefs that serves me is to believe that I chose this journey as a soul to have and experience, so I could share this story with everyone and all of you and inspire you to look at fear and what it is doing in your life, and to try to always find joy and love in every situation, and to be grateful. This belief really served me as well because it kind of makes sense that I experienced this journey the way that I did, because it was so perfect in one day. And the fact that perhaps if I had gone to the doctor, even though I'm recommending that, if I had gone to the doctor, I might have prolonged having a fibroid for so long and had heavy periods and had more iron loss and suffering. Whereas this situation for me was life or death. And so I was able to get in the hospital and have the protocol of just being able to have surgery and take it away in one day, and just go through this transformation in one day. That way I could experience this magic and really have the benefits of having such a magical day for me to share with all of you. While you're healing your body, everything that you consume also, as Thich Nhat Hanh talks about, even the visual stimulus and stimuli that you see everywhere, like from the news and TV and everything like that, that creates a fear sense at times to some people. And that was what was happening with me as well. So having these feelings processing through you, and then adding to it with the dramas of TV and the news, I found really got in the way of my healing process. So if this suggestion resonates with you and you feel better just watching comedies or really watching your emotions while you are healing, I highly recommend that as well to you, because our emotions definitely are our guiding system that gets ignored in other health videos of my stories of challenges and what I call a science experiment of my face on a different part of this channel. It talks about how I learned about that from that magical experience, as you could call it. And anyway, thank you. I want to thank Song from Songbird Journeys for inspiring me to share this story on YouTube with as many people as possible. And thank you very much for all of your inspiration and healing and love and support.